Hello, this video is for Dr. Rob Budde's poetry class, 4th year English. Just a little bit about me before we start. My name is Alex. I took Dr. Budde's poetry class when I was an undergraduate. And after that, I decided to keep up writing poetry and to improve and to become better. And now I have some poetry to share with you. So I'll explain each one after I've read it. So I have a poem here that I called Driving to Whistler. White and yellow lines, they lead us on and on. Are these lines like lifelines? Like the lines on your palm telling how long you'll survive this time? Long asphalt lines stretching across the hills and rivers, crossing state lines, dividing up the land like a patchwork quilt. How long will you wait, lined up at the polling station? It's just another police lineup, and you're queuing like it's a line for the grocery store. Buy a politician today, 50% off on Friday. All the lines in your life add up, one by one. It's a grid, a search grid. But you don't know what you're looking for. Just go on and on. Eventually, in your life, you'll hit a stop sign, which you cannot pass. So I actually wrote that poem while I was in a car with my friend Trina on the way to Whistler. So I got the idea of lines from driving on the road and just continued on with that thought. My father says it's a little bit of a darker poem, but I like it, so I'll read you another one. This one is called Between Sheets. I'm all slither-brained. The soft darkness caresses a mind inflamed, pulsing with each throbbing thought. There must be a shepherd in the night, collecting all my stray brainwaves, each micro-bleep, a woolly little cerebral sheep, jumping across my vision, a yellow-gray silhouette. I try counting them to lull my restless mind to sleep. They just keep coming, endless multitudes of bleating, ink-blot outlines. A car drives by, my ceiling illuminates, and I contemplate how the stresses in my brain are like tectonic plates sliding together, magma welling up around my amygdala. A minor quake of the mind is me settling into sleep. My arms curl around me, crisscrossed and tight, tight. A second could be a year, and I'm always, always caught in the steel bear trap of the universe. So some of these poems I wrote when I had depression. And I still have depression, but it's mostly managed with various things such as medication, exercise, eating right, that type of thing. But for a while I was in a bad way, and some of my poems reflect that. This one is called The Third Floor. Sometimes your head will tell you to do strange things, a pocket watch or a window pane. Break, rewind, stake, recline. A smudge on a page is the inside of your eyes. Lids are hollow, eyelids, pot lids, day trips, car skids. The time is 8 or so p.m. I'm already dreaming. Vivid blue or green floating by. I just ask myself if what I see is real. Red rain falls on my sheets. An abominable bride visits in the night. Where did my brain go? It's somewhere on Interstate 5. Too many white lines and passing lights. I'm real. Please believe me. Leave me. Green. Too much green in this dream. So just to give you some context, the third floor is actually the psych ward of the UMBC University Hospital. And I spent some time there, so it was not the greatest time of my life, but at least I got better. So I have a couple for you about being queer. So just some other context. I am gender fluid, which means that I am non-binary. I do not identify as male or female. You may notice that I am dressed very feminine right now. That does not reflect my gender identity in any way. So without further ado, I'm going to read you something called Gender Unalignment. Boy, girl, tilt-a-whirl, lush lipstick, binder and boots, push, pull, boy, girl, my design won't align, painted nails, septum ring, melt, mix, knuckle nicks, undercut, won't shut up. So this one is actually about how I feel whenever somebody uses the wrong pronouns for me. This one is called Misgender Me. Sand in my eye, grinding, a feeling of shame like being naked in public. All the worst dreams are made of this. I came to you palms up. I came to you in pieces. I asked you to build me up, and instead I'm a sandcastle in ocean waves, melting away into a form you expect. I can't get this feeling off of me. Your words are clinging spiderwebs, and the horror won't leave me. I'm retching up the words you said to me. Woman. I can't scrub myself clean enough. I have ants crawling all over me, and I am dying for acknowledgement. I just can't think. Why? I came to you, palms up, and now the wound I carry from your careless words will bleed out like the tide in morning. Okay, so now I have one that is about Prince George, because right now I am in Manitoba and I have been for almost 8 months, and I will be here for another 4 months. So I wrote a poem about Prince George because I was going to miss it. So I don't have a title for this one yet, but it's probably just going to be Prince George. I'll write one last poem to you, an ode to bygone days in cafes and at bus stops late at night. I loved you like one loves each breath of air before plunging into frigid black waters. Or maybe the smell of wet leaves in autumn air at that time when the trees shed their red and orange coats. And I have this sharp yet ineffable feeling, nestled deep in my chest, a baby bird just learning to leave the nest. My eyes blur from the pain of it because as I drive away, through mountains and forests, and over plains of waving gold, the land I know still calls to me. A red string binds me to this place, tied around and tangled in my rib cage. I will return to you. On a winter night when the air stings, I will breathe you in, I promise. I have another poem for you. This one is about water. This one was written originally because of the land defenders and the water protectors, the indigenous people who are trying to protect the land. So this one is called Water in 2 parts. Every natural word for green is gone, and blue has been long forgotten. Chlorophyll, azure, emerald, no more. The land is black and brown, burnt skeletons of trees, cracked and scorched earth, empty, empty wastelands that once held multitudes. Now dead beyond recognition or hope, the sky is red with particulate, and the sun is a sluggish and blighted thing. Nearby is a rusted-out oil rig. As empty as the barren plains, Earth people lived here once, but no longer. Corporate greed planted a seed of destruction that grew too large, too fast, and they did not heed the land protectors, the ones who said, water is life. Part 2. Green is a word inadequate to describe the world, but I'll attempt to pen the environment into a poem. There's an old concrete aquarium exhibit, overrun with vines and grass. Nature reclaimed this space. This urban decay is beautiful because of the roots cracking the pavement and drapes of greenery overhanging a once crowded arena. No one is here now but the wind and the rain, gentle and harsh in turns. Earth people lived here once, but have since learned a way of balance. They walk a different path. A rusted-out oil rig is a monument to what could have been a different time. A ripple of movement spread across nations, and many raised their voices, refusing to move, because they knew, even then, water is life. Last poem. So this one is called Lines Written in Apartment 15, and it's just some advice to those who are actually trying to read poetry. Read poetry like you read the lines of a person's face when they smile, remembering something that didn't quite happen the way they thought. It's okay to read it that way, you know. Poetry is not square concrete buildings with square windows and square cubicles and square people. It is equally not people marching in straight lines. It is not pressed fabric or starch or even boot polish. Poetry is that place you go in your dreams, the one you can slightly remember when you wake up, but not quite. Poetry is patting a cat, content for the moment, but it might bite at any moment. It's the northern lights, in all its array of blue and green and violet. It's an ant carrying something 10 times its own weight. But don't worry about all that. After all, poetry is for you. So I'm sure that Dr. Budde has talked to you about why people write poetry. So my reasons for writing poetry are generally very political, because I see things happening in the world that need to be changed, and I want to add my voice to being a reason to change, an inspiration to change. So some of it is very political, but I also write poetry in order to take something that's inside me and to put it out in the world, because if it just stays inside me, then I'd probably just explode or something. So that's what I want to do, is to externalize what I'm feeling so that I can see it and so that I can feel it and examine it in different ways. So that's why I write poetry. And my writing process works something like this. There was a quotation once from a romantic poet. I'm a romanticist, by the way. And it's by Wordsworth, and he says, it's an overflowing of powerful feeling that you remember in a moment of peace or tranquility. I'm messing up that quotation for sure, but that's what it is that you've got all this turmoil of emotions in you, and then you put it on paper, and then what I do is actually get it workshopped usually by another poet. I'm sure you've done that as well, where you've done workshop poetry workshops where you switch your poems with somebody else and people critique it. So actually Dr. Budde was the one who taught us how to do that. So I still do that now, and I continue to do that. So I hope that that is actually helpful for you when you're continuing on in your poet's life. I'd like to thank you for watching, and to thank Dr. Budde for inviting me to speak to you, and I hope that this video is helpful to learning more about how to write and how to compose poetry. So have a good rest of the semester, and I hope that you all stay safe. Bye!